Hello, this is David Johns, Associate Superintendent with the Green Bay Area Public Schools. I'd like to welcome you to our screencast for Thriving Student Body, our monthly board update of our strategic plan goals for February 9th, 2026. Our presenters for this update include Dr. Eric Kahn, Director of Curricular Pathways and Post-Secondary Partnerships, Katie Succo, Associate Director of Pupil Services, and Christina Jingle, Associate Director of Pupil Services. Together, they lead the work and lead teams involved in ensuring that we are annually working toward our goals and ultimately will meet or exceed our 5-year strategic goals in the area of thriving student body.
Today, we will be sharing with you updates on 3 goals in our priority area of thriving student body. Those include sense of belonging, teacher-student relationships, and customized success plan. These 3 strategic goals bring into focus how we are advancing the portrait of a graduate competencies of academic achievers, empowered navigators, and personal architects. We begin with sense of belonging as our first strategic goal and year 1 benchmark. Panorama defines sense of belonging as the extent to which students feel valued, accepted, and connected members of their school community. Our 5-year goal to be reached by 2030 is to increase students' favorable perceptions in the area of sense of belonging by 25 percentage points for elementary students and by 35 percentage points for secondary students as determined by the Panorama survey. Our year 1 benchmark is to increase students' favorable response in the area of sense of belonging by 5 percentage points for elementary students and 7 percentage points for secondary students as measured by the Panorama survey. Our second strategic goal is teacher-student relationships. Panorama defines teacher-student relationships as how strong the social connection is between teachers and students within and beyond the classroom. Our 5-year teacher-student relationship goal to be reached by 2030 is to increase student favorable perceptions in the area of student-teacher relationships by 10 percentage points for elementary students and by 30 percentage points for secondary students as defined by Panorama survey. Our year 1 benchmark for teacher-student relationships is to increase students' favorable response in the area of student-teacher relationships by 2 percentage points for elementary and 6 percentage points for secondary students as measured by the Panorama survey. This slide represents our baseline data and also our 5-year goal. You will notice on this slide our 2 grade bands of grades 3 through 5 and grades 6 through 12, along with our current baseline and our 5-year goal. Our year 1 strategic action is to reestablish a collaborative vision and expectations for how dedicated time is used during the school day to build relationships and a sense of community. We believe a critical step is to continue to listen and partner with our community. A few intentional actions we have taken include engaging our students in grades 6 through 12 in a survey, meeting with student and staff focus groups, and also intentionally partnering with those school leaders who have identified as their engagement goal within their continuous school improvement plan a sense of belonging and/or teacher-student relationships to learn about their intentional actions to enhance this dedicated time. A few intentional actions we have gathered from the field included intentionally gather student voice to inform the advisory schedule, using informal peer-to-peer check-ins, leverage advisory for student-led conferences, having a school-level team to co-construct the schedule with ongoing educator feedback, and developing a weekly structure that strategically advances their school's continuous school improvement plan, including academics and engagement.
In addition to examining the innovative approaches building administrators are implementing to strengthen morning meeting and advisory in alignment with their continuous school improvement goals, it was essential to gather input from our other key partners, our students and our teachers. While some informal feedback had previously been shared, we sought a more systematic and representative approach. Accordingly, a survey was administered to students grades 6 through 12, yielding over 4,000 responses. Recognizing that the mode of data collection can influence both the type and the depth of the feedback, we also conducted focus groups with students and staff at several partner schools. After synthesizing these data sources, several consistent themes emerged, which are reflected on this slide. One of the most prominent themes was a desire for increased opportunities for fun and connection, experiences that truly fostered authentic student-teacher relationships and peer-to-peer relationships, rather than interactions that felt forced or overly structured. Another key theme was the need for greater flexibility and choice, particularly in accessing academic support without sacrificing lunch periods or relying on teacher availability after school. Both students and staff also emphasize the importance of integrating content that builds skills essential for students' future success. As we move forward in reestablishing a clear and consistent vision for morning meeting and advisory across our district, we have identified several key next steps. Our initial phase of engagement focused on schools that had identified student-teacher relationships and sense of belonging as priorities within their continuous school improvement plans. Because many of these schools were at the secondary level, the feedback we have gathered thus to date reflects this emphasis. To ensure a more balanced and comprehensive understanding, we will now be engaging intentionally with elementary schools that have demonstrated strong outcomes in the areas of belonging and relationship building. These schools will help us surface additional promising practices that can inform district-wide guidance. In addition, while our focus groups allowed us to hear directly from both our students and our staff, our next step is to administer a staff survey. This will allow us to gather a broader, more representative range of perspectives from educators across all of our buildings. Our approach will be grounded in continuous improvement, using data analysis, inquiry, and alignment with building level goals to guide decision making. This work will be supported through ongoing collaborative partnerships with building administrators. Our aim is to strengthen shared ownership and leadership amongst all of our key partners through consistent feedback cycles that will support the development and implementation of morning meeting and advisory. Together, these steps position us to build a more coherent, responsive, and student-centered morning meeting and advisory system that advances both the sense of belonging and student-teacher relationships across all of our schools. As a result of these identified next steps, our goal is to have each and every one of our students have a similar experience in morning meeting or advisory as we heard from the group of 8th grade students from Red Smith pictured on this slide. They spoke about their advisory feeling like a family, to the extent they interacted as siblings, which we saw evidence of in a fun and supportive way. Students shared that their relationships have grown stronger through learning about and discussing meaningful topics, including mental health. We also observed them demonstrating portrait of a graduate traits, communicating effectively, building authentic connections, and collaborating as teammates who recognize and appreciate the diverse strengths within their group. It is this experience we strive to make universal for all of our students. At this time, in lieu of questions, we just invite you to pause and reflect before we transition into our next strategic area of focus.
The third goal that we're going to discuss with you is that of the customized student success plan. By 2030, our goal is that 100% all of our secondary students will have a customized success plan that includes an academic plan with their preliminary career identification and personal pursuits. The year one benchmark is for us to build the framework for this customized student success plan that will include key components that have lessons and experiential learning. This slide shows our current data based on those elements that I previously described. Now, what you'll notice here, this is the data that we currently have available to us that we are collecting
related to the elements of the plan. The first element is, do students have an academic plan that is complete, whether it's complete through the end of middle school or complete through the end of high school? And you can see the percentage of students that have that complete is 47.68%. As far as career identification goes, this is measured through the students having completed the career identification aspects in our Zello academic and career planning platform. We have 56.84% of students that have completed this portion of the career identification in the past 3 years. When we combine the data, the students that have an academic plan and career identification complete is 28.75%. Now, why the discrepancy between these numbers? And it's because of the grade levels we're talking about. For the most part, the work with Zello tends to be done at our middle school and potentially up to our high school or early high school grades. However, if we're only measuring students that have updated this information in the previous 3 years, there are some high school students that may not have completed any work in Zello in those previous 3 years. So that's why that number drops off when it's compared to the overall percent of students between both the career identification and the academic plan being complete, where more high school students may be likely to have their academic plan complete. When we look at our strategic action, as noted, our action step for this year is to build the framework for this customized student success plan. Now, these plans will include data in 3 main areas. One is the career identification that we mentioned. This is, do students have, how broad it is or how narrow it is at this point in time, an identified area or areas of career that they're interested in. Secondly, our personal pursuits. This is an area that we have not fully defined yet as far as the data points. However, we believe it's important to include these elements that students may be personally interested in, things like hobbies, personal interests, experiences they want to have that aren't directly tied to a career. We see this as being important for students to meet the district's mission of being life ready. And then finally, when we look at the career identification and the personal pursuits, the students develop their academic plan. What is it academically, the courses they're going to take, the activities they're going to pursue that are going to prepare them for that post-secondary goal that they've identified? Secondly, is for all these plans to be housed in a location accessible by all stakeholders. This means that anybody who works with that student, who supports the student, who is doing work with advising the student, is able to access the data and the plan that the student has created. And then third, we're looking at how we are evaluating and strengthening our overall programming around district post-secondary readiness. So what do we have in place? What are the structures that exist to support the students in the development and the implementation of their plans? So one action we've taken is evaluating the current state of our data. So what components do we have where data is being collected and where is it being housed? And at the very beginning, when I talked through those data metrics that we shared, those are 2 examples of data that we're collecting around academic plan and and career identification. So we have the student completion of the academic course plan, we have the career identification, but as I mentioned in the previous slide, we still need to determine how to document personal pursuits. This is not as clear-cut as answers or information that can be given for the other 2 areas, and it's a lot more variable as we look at the wide variety of things a student could be interested in. So some of the work we're doing is determining what that data collection could look like in a way that is not only savable but usable for both individual students and at a larger level. Next is the plan availability. So as I mentioned, we are looking to determine where we're going to store these plans so they're available to all those relevant individuals, counselors, teachers, students, and families. How are we entering the information in the location so that it's usable for advising and student planning. So when we're looking at how we are supporting and advising students, is that information something that is easily used in that process? We want the way the information is stored to be adaptable. With students, even adults, but with students in grades 6 through 12, or middle and high schoolers, as their intentions change, as they learn more about themselves, as they gain more experiences, they're going to refine this plan to be more clear about where they are at any given point and the goals they have after high school. We want this data collection system and the plan that they're creating to also be able to reflect that adaptability. And then finally, at a school or a district level, we want to have the plan stored in a place where reports can be generated, pulling from these data elements to look at and review trends. So we're able to do things like target programming to students who have an expressed interest in a career area or a type of post-secondary activity or a current high school activity. And then finally, as we have that plan being available, we know we need to determine how we're going to implement the plan with that broad group of relevant individuals and how we're going to communicate out to the individuals about the plan and where it's located.
As an interim step, we work to enhance a pre-existing form and build it out to capture more intentional information such as personal pursuits, current career interests, and post-secondary pathways. This spring, our secondary counselors who are conducting individual student planning conferences will begin using this form to capture key information from those conversations. This data can then be used to inform programming, identify lessons, and shape experiential learning opportunities. Our third action is to continue partnering across internal teams and external partners to strengthen our district's post-secondary readiness practices and build a comprehensive, sustainable plan. We are currently focused on the areas highlighted in red: post-secondary vision, plan, and framework, post-secondary data systems and structures, and student supports and advising programming. Our next steps focus on strengthening our post-secondary readiness systems by refining our shared vision and framework, improving our data systems, and elevating student supports and advising. This includes revising the district's academic and career plan, determining key indicators within the customized success plan, activating counselors' use of the customized success form this spring, and identifying a high-quality advising framework. As this plan comes to life, every learner will build their plan with purpose, supported by strong advising, and connected to meaningful pathways. With agency and intentional guidance, students explore their strengths, link their learning to future goals, and gain the confidence to step into the post-secondary path that aligns with their aspirations.